Well, hello everyone and welcome back as we get ready to go racing on the high banks, of course, of the World Centre of Racing. It's the Daytona International Speedway and it's round number 3 of the Formula Challenge Series here on R Factor 2. It's the gateway to Formula Pro. Take you through all the action. It's myself, Lewis McGlade, Justin Sutton's alongside, and we've loved this championship so far. The opening 2 rounds have delivered. Of course, we had that exhibition race at Spa and then they ran it a little bit later on in the week. But that Monza race was a classic.
Hey, Lewis, really excited to be here. I actually didn't catch what you just said, but really excited for this race. We already had the Formula Pro race, obviously, last time out here at Daytona. It was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that one. A real challenge for the drivers, especially with the mixed weather that we got during the race. Really looking forward to this one. It should be a lot of fun. Third round, of course. After this will be the halfway point of the season. So this is an important race.
It certainly is. And of course, the strategy for today is expected to be a no-stop strategy, which is a little bit interesting. It's a little bit tricky to kind of work out as to how things are going to go. The reason why is because a one-stop strategy around here is going to be a little bit too long to drag them into the pit lane because the pit lane's quite long. But how do the drivers get into the format? That's the critical thing. To work their way into the championship, they go through a pre-qualify, which you can also do for the next round of the season when we go racing at Donington Park by loading up R Factor 2 and taking the car around one of the most historic circuits in the UK. Such a fun little championship to jump into.
I'm still not able to hear you, unfortunately, Lewis.
That's a bit of a shame. Either way, well, I'll just carry on as is because the real thing with jumping into a series like this, as we've said before, it is, of course, the gateway to Formula Pro. Let's take a look at how Formula Challenge works. So the 2022 season of Formula Challenge explained. It features not only the fastest car that we've got on R Factor 2, but drivers and teams to compete their way and push through into Formula Pro. It's a difficult challenge for them to do so. They take on some of the greatest tracks in the world at Spa, at Monza, the road course at Daytona, which we're battling today, and Donington Park Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time, Circuit d'Azur, and then Laguna Seca. 3 very difficult tracks to round out the season as they all fight for promotion at the end of the championship. Every round will feature, of course, a 15-minute qualifying session, which will set the grid into a 45-minute race with no mandatory pit stops, which we think will play its part today. Dynamic weather, track rubber, and full damage simulation will be in effect. Cars will enter park limit after qualifying, with limited changes such as front wing angle being allowed, and drivers have 45 seconds and push to pass at their whim throughout the race, which will add an extra 55 brake horsepower. But of course, we haven't just raced this one round of the season. We have raced it before. Last time out of Monza. Let's take a look. And we get ready to go racing in round number 2 of the Formula Challenge Series here on R Factor 2. We are underway at Monza at the Temple of Speed. But look at Sander Callas. He gets straight alongside, making it 3 wide to the braking zone. He's gone over the curb a bit of time. And Mattia Krupi's gone round. Darius Andre then takes the lead. The Centros need develops of Rory McDuff. Also straight lines. The chicane on the run up the hill towards Ascari. But his teammate making the work done now. Mattia Krupi up into 3rd place. Christian Mikel down into 4th. So that is for an instant down at the Rettifilio. Oh, speaking of which, that is a massive mistake from Jordi Zveers straight into the rear end of Alejandro Lopez at Jorna. Look at this. Oh my goodness me. How do we talk our way through this? Philip Dries currently in 10th position, trying to fend off the charge of Lianes. So at least there's that. Darius Andre. Oh my goodness. I think this was a solo error. He's run through Ascari. He's taken a little bit too much curb on the right. He's pushed it way too far over. And as soon as you take that 3rd curb, you go completely airborne and into the barrier.
It'll be very interesting to see how many of them are staying out.
Oh my goodness.
That is somebody making a very dramatic exit. And this is what happened to Alejandro Lopez. Just gets a little bit onto the exit curbing, the curbing at the exit, a little bit frustrated as we switch on board with the R8G driver. He's going to look to go around the outside into that 2nd chicane. Does not manage to hold on to take the position, but he does get a much better exit. He's going to look up the inside.
Down into, a little bit of a squeeze from Christian Mikel. Risto Cappas going all the way around the outside. Super stuff between 2 very experienced drivers. Risto Capit still alongside. Turka Häkkinen's fancying his way through. Risto Capit, the Estonian, is at the inside going down to the Lesmo.
Still battling between the two of them as they exit the chicane, and it is an opportunity for Binsbergen. Oh, he's getting muscled off of the road.
Big overlap going down into the Rogier. He's going to send it in. Masuli's trying to hang on. Rory McDuff makes a little bit of contact. Masuli skips over the chicane. Then we're looking at 2 laps to go, but we're going to be very, very tight for that 3rd lap. Here comes Hemmingsen then around the outside of curve at Grande. He's got the inside into the Rogier. He's going to be committed onto the brakes. Hemmingsen's going for it. There's a bit of contact between the two, and Hemmingsen takes over the lead back towards the battle for 10th. Rory McDuff's managed to build a decent enough gap to it. Zalagianis and Stepkovsky. Zalagianis is going around the outside of Masuli. That one's not going to work, and now Stepkovsky's going. Oh, Zalagianis is gone. Absolutely super stuff. Matty Agrupi still side by side with Sander Callas, trying to hang on for 2nd place. Oh, Matty Agrupi's been made contact with. Martin Hemmingsen made it stick at the right time, and Ferrari GE Sports on the no-stop strategy here at Monza is going to win the 2nd round of the season. Sander Callas in 2nd place, Risto Capit in 3rd, then Turka Häkkinen, and then Matty Agrupi. Oh, it's so tight across the line as well. Absolutely breathless action. Hopefully now you can hear me, Justin.
Yes.
We can all get this sorted. Good stuff. What a round it was there at Monza. What a race. I'm kind of expecting more of the same today.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and it really showed us that even without the use of DRS or any sort of gimmicks or anything like that, really we could have some fantastic racing out at Monza. Even with the lower horsepower Formula Challenge cars, it proved to still be very effective and really good at wheel-to-wheel racing. And after what we saw last week in the Formula Pro Series, I fully expect we're going to see much of the same here. Again, the push-to-pass is going to be even more powerful in terms of a percentage of the total power of the vehicle. So it's going to be really exciting, and I'm really looking forward to see what happens out here today.
Yeah, of course, push to power is the same brake horsepower number as it is in Formula Pro. However, in this, you're absolutely right. It's only 600 brake horsepower in the engine, which means it's about a 10% increase. Meanwhile, in Formula Pro, it's only really close to about 7.5 to 8%. We should probably take a look at the car as well that we're racing in today, because it is a tricky beast. The Formula Challenge car of 2022, as we were alluding to, it's got the same downforce numbers, but it does have less power than its Formula Pro counterpart. 600 brake horsepower, all put through that V10 revving all the way up to 18,000 revs. Push to pass, which is 45 seconds, adds an extra 55 brake horsepower to push it up to 190 miles an hour. There we go, even faster than that at Monza. 600 kilos, absolutely no DRS. It has ground effect to keep it absolutely stuck to the ground without delivering too much dirty air out of the rear end of the car, but it still will be a factor around here. They can have setups customized to however they wish to drive. Naturally, we're going to see some slightly lower wings here. Shift protection, which should stop them from blowing the engine down to heavy braking zones at turn 1, and a 7-speed gearbox to carry them all the way around the high banks. 4 tyre compounds, soft, medium, hard, and the wets. We use the wets in Formula Pro. Don't think we'll be using it here today, with updated tyre degradation, which will be playing its feature right here today, because we're expecting this to be a no-stop race, and that is going to play its part. The pit lane is so long around here, because obviously around Daytona it's quite slow, and it goes all the way around the inside of turn 1.
Yeah, exactly right. So you're right. Probably not going to be people coming into the pit lanes for any planned pit stop. So we may see a couple cars into the pits, but they will definitely be worse off because of it as a result of that. But really looking forward to, especially turn 1 was really kind of a hot spot where I saw a lot of overtaking action last week at the Formula Pro Series. And they're going to be braking even later here in the Formula Challenge Series, of course, because they'll be carrying slightly less speed due to that slightly reduced horsepower. But turn 1 is going to be fantastic. That ground effect is going to be super helpful all through until you get back onto the oval through to turn 6, etc. Potentially we could see some overtakes into the bus stop as well, but I really do think turn 1 is going to be the primary location where we can expect overtakes.
Let's take a look at the circuit, which we will be racing at today, though. Of course, we're going to have qualifying in a few moments' time. Before that, it's always good to take a look at the brilliant, historic Daytona International Speedway. Of course, it's nicknamed the World Centre of Racing. 5.7 kilometres all the way around, and some fantastic corners of overtaking. Turn 1, short. Turn 3 into the International Horseshoe. Going through the dog leg into the West Horseshoe can also fetch a decent move, but it is quite a late apex and quite high average speed. Watch out for moves, though, going through the bus stop Of course, it's been renamed recently to the Le Mans chicane, obviously, because the partnership with Le Mans. And so there's the first, I think the first multi will be called Daytona now, before you go around NASCAR 3 and 4, ready to start another lap. It is going to be a tricky race. We're expecting it to be roughly around 31, 32 laps, which means that because we're expecting it to be a no-stop race, this could actually be the longest and hardest stint we see all season in both Formula Challenge and Formula Pro.
And it seems like such a simple lap when you look at it, when you just look at the overhead map like that. It seems simplistic. It seems like a track that wouldn't really have accidents or anything like that. You might think it's huge as well, too. Where are you going to find a barrier to even crash into? But they're there. The drivers always seem to find them. And we even saw some drivers going off in the wet conditions, of course, that was last week. But yeah, the drivers are going to have to be on it for sure if they don't want to make any mistakes, especially through high-speed sections like that bus stop chicane.
Unfortunately, we are going to be using the term thermal degradation quite a bit this afternoon, because it is going to be a key factor. Going out onto the banks, you do tend to burn up your rear wheels quite a bit. Obviously, out of the International Horseshoe and the West Horseshoe, you do tend to also heat them up quite a bit. It's not easy. First 25 minutes of the race aren't going to be that difficult. They're going to be quite heavy on fuel comparatively to the norm, but they're not going to be that difficult. But later on in the race, that is where things are going to get really, really tricky. A few teams have already tried a no-stop strategy earlier on in the season. Do distinctly remember Risto Capit's tried a no-stop race in both of the previous races. Wonder how much of an impact that is going to have on his race.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating one. I'm really interested to see how people handle the various stages of the race because, of course, without that pit stop in the middle to kind of refresh the tires and the drivers, give them just maybe even a few seconds to rest, they're just going to be on it the entire time. Now, of course, they do have those long full throttle sections where they can rest ever so slightly, grab a drink if they need to, that sort of stuff. But it is going to be pretty relentless out there for 45 minutes.
Before we get to the 45-minute race, we should probably check in on qualifying. 15-minute session, I do believe, is underway at this very moment in time. And it is, despite being a circuit which we expect to be good for overtakes and stuff like that, track conditions are still king around here. You don't want to be stuck behind because dirty air, whilst we do have ground effect, whilst we have been reduced on that side of things, it is still quite a big factor around here, dirty air. It does really play its part, especially through the bus stop.
Yeah, exactly right. Like I said before, extremely high-speed section, which is why I think people are going to be really, really cautious about making a mistake through there. And once you do make a mistake through there as well, you never do take it quite the same, do you, the next time through, because you don't quite trust yourself or the car or the curbing or whatever the variable might be on this particular lap. But we can see lots of curb being utilized there at the entrance and exit of the chicane. But you start to trust that chicane a little bit less once it bites you.
Which Michi Hoyer found out quite early on in Formula Pro. Did manage to keep his car at least somewhat on the road. So difficult to battle your way through the bus stop. We can see a lap on board here with Philip Dryce, of course, for needracing.com. Heading into turn one, you can actually go a lot earlier on the brakes than you expect. As much as everyone's like brake later, it doesn't gain you as much time as you think through the first section. Going through the second corner, realistically, and it's the 2 and 3 through that really fast chicane, it's completely flat out. Not really much of a corner into the International Horseshoe. Keep it pinned all the way through the dogleg, but pick out your braking zone. It really isn't easy through here. You kind of commit quite hard. You've got to pull it over to the left-hand side, which in a car with this much downforce and little power comparatively, it's not that difficult, but it's easy to bite, and that's kind of exactly what you were saying about earlier, Justin, is that there we go, there's a bit of a moment from Dryce. Whilst it's not a difficult looking track, it is one that you cannot underestimate.
Yeah, and that kind of mistake right there will cost you so much because, of course, you're carrying that mistake all the way through this banking, all the way down the straight towards the bus stop, and you don't start getting time back until you make your way through the bus stop chicane, the next deceleration zone. So, yeah, it can really be frustrating, and the bus stop is even worse. So if you make a mistake at turn 6, that's going to be pretty painful. But if you make a mistake through the bus stop, especially at the exit of the bus stop, you're going to be carrying that all the way down towards turn 1.
and it can be difficult to come back from that sort of thing. We did see that the slipstream can be quite powerful, is what we saw last week in the Formula Pro Series. So we tend to see people trying to go around the outside, at least last week we did, going around the outside at turn 1, using that slipstream, coming out of the bus stop all the way down towards the start-finish line, and then trying to go around the outside. To some people, it was pretty successful.
And I think we're going to see an awful lot of the slipstream being dished out here today, like you say. With the power, it's running the same level of downforce as you do in Formula Pro, but obviously with the power difference, we said about how much that impacts the push to pass. It also impacts how much the slipstream works in your favour. You've got less power, so you're pushing quite a big hole, which is easing you into it even more. Again, a higher percentage of gains. That's why we see such great racing in Formula Challenge, with the ability to race and such. Two of the Mustang GT esports cars leaving the pit lane. Philip Dryce currently holding on to the pole position from Christian Mikel. The poles this season so far: at Spa it was Sandor Callas, at Monza it was Mattia Krupi. Neither went on to victory.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's important, but not absolutely crucial. Oh, and Lalu is completely missing a rear wing. Yeah, that's not DRS. That is missing bodywork.
Yeah, that's a very extreme DRS if ever I have seen it. I mean, it might work on the last lap of the race. Who knows? Thomas Vack for the RSR team down in 24th, obviously not set a time just yet. The Herlock in 5th. Now, this is the issue, is there's a couple of Herlocks in sim racing. If it's the Herlock I'm thinking of, it might well be Daniel Herlock, who drives also for RSR. Let's see what happens to Yuka Lalu, and that's why you don't underestimate this circuit. Exactly what you said as well. the barriers aren't like, they're quite far away, and yet still drivers find them.
Yeah, pretty impressive stuff there. By the way, Christian Mikel up in second position as it stands right now. Remember, he is a championship contender coming into this race, 4th in the standings on 150 points, only 16 points behind Sandor Callas. So at the moment, looking really good for him, and a pretty sizable gap between the top 2 and the rest of the field, as we're seeing at the moment. The top 10 all within 1 second as it stands right now. But only Christian Mikel has been able to get within a couple of tenths of Philip Dryce's time.
You can see Rory McDuff on screen, and whilst he is driving in a Cetrez Nita Velix car, we can confirm to you that in the last couple of weeks that he is no longer a Cetrez Nita Velix driver. The two of them have parted ways in the recent past, but still, obviously with how things are in the season, he's still got to run the livery, at least for the the near future. Kind of one of those issues, but that's how sim racing drama is. He'll come into the pit lane anyway, quite a long way off of pole. He said he's not had the time to be able to practice too much from us. He received a setup from Turka Hakkinen not too long ago, but he's not been able to adjust it to his own driving. That's kind of one of the things that we do speak about quite a bit, is that whilst it's all well and good teams working with setups between each other, making it work for you, very different thing. Mustang GT Esports using the slipstream at the moment.
Yeah, interesting to see that being utilized. This is on the run down towards the bus stop there as they navigate their way through. The quick left, quick right. And again, using lots of curbing as well, too. Turka Hakkinen, who is a bit of a fan of 4th place, it seems, after picking up a 4th place last time out, has gone 4th quickest. Still a little bit off the pole time. There we go. And there we go. That is Mancini just getting out of the way there. And yeah, just making use of that slipstream. We'll see how effective that can actually be, though.
It was Eros Masuli who went up into 10th position for Mustang GT Esports, so a decent little gain in the slipstream from him. Here's Jimmy Nisela for Satellite Racing, not set a time. Same as Sandor Callas, yet to set a time within this session, as is Yuka Lalu, obviously after that damage. Martin Derlin and Zala Giannis all yet to set a time presently. And Philip Dryce's 23.4 not being beaten. Bit of a moment there from Jimmy Nisela, who's not looking super fast in the first sector. And just look at that, despite only being 600 brake horsepower, it was snapping, caught, and that has affected his run all the way around to the bus stop.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we were talking about before. You just really carry these mistakes for so long because the full throttle sections of this circuit are just so long before and after the bus stop. Oh, that is not the optimal way to be taking the bus stop for Nisela as he makes his way through what is essentially the final corner. It's the final real corner that you actually need to navigate, and he powers his way down towards the start-finish line to complete his first time. No, it won't because of the... Yeah, so he's going to have to peel back in. And what is that, maybe one more attempt? Maybe two if he hurries?
I think he can get 2. Mirko Mancini gets off of the track, obviously is giving his teammates some assistance with the slipstream, and now is just kind of waiting. I don't know why he's going so slow. Maybe he's waiting for another teammate who's not too far behind. So if anyone pops him through the back of shot, the answer to that question is no. So just going very, very slow, wasting a little bit of time here, which, like I say, when you've not got the longest session in the world, you can't afford to waste too much time. And he's not building up into another lap himself, because he didn't go.
No.
You start your lap at the bus stop chicane. If you mess that up on your out lap to build up to a time lap, the lap's already gone before it's even begun.
Yeah, it's crucial that you take that bus stop as effectively as possible, despite the short run from the line into turn 1, into the braking zone for turn 1. It's actually not a massive run. But, you know, if it finds them a tenth or even half a tenth or so, that could be the difference between even a number of positions. Because, of course, in the midfield, for the likes of Mashuli, half a tenth would move him up into ninth position. So really, really small margins we're talking about here in Formula Challenge. So if they can get that extra half a tenth, if they can get that tiny, tiny advantage by just having a good run through the bus stop, they're absolutely going to take it. So really not much time remaining in this session. There we go. Mattia Krupi going up. Yeah, up into 4th position, 4 tenths off the pole time, but still nobody has been able to match Philip Dries. He's out on track now, though, as is Christian Mikel, though. So we'll see if either of them can better the times they've already set.
Mattia Krupi will be returning to pit lane to try and maybe aim for another lap late on in the session. Would be able to do it with 5 minutes and 20 seconds left. Philip Dries, first sector, not great, not brilliant, but this was a corner he made a bit of a mistake on his original timed lap. It was going out onto NASCAR 1 and 2 out of T6. Now going all the way round to the bus stop. Let's see what Philip Dries' second sector is like. Again, we're going to see that high commitment through the chicane. As much as there's anti-cuts there, they basically want the anti-cut to go under the middle of the car. Watch, boom, straight there. A little bit too much on the right-hand side. It's pulled him over too far to the left. I wonder if that second sector is going to count. It's normally around here. I think that might have cut as or counted as being a cut lap.
I think so. Yep, and it sure looks that way. And he's pulling off to the side as well. And he's going to have to be really quick if he wants to try and get back through. Just under a minute and a half of an outlap, obviously, not including time spent in the pit time traveling. Turkka Hakkinen currently 5th fastest as it stands right now, and he's going to be starting what will be, I assume, his final lap here. He doesn't need to find much time. Less than 0.04 of a second will move him back onto the second row of the grid.
Yeah, and it's also trying to get a time that's going to keep him just out of reach of the likes of Risto Capit, of Herlock, of Valeriano, Binsbergen, Paul Auguste Lana as well. Turkka Hakkinen coming up towards the first sector. Who was that? Darius Andre, who's gone up into third. Darius Andre, by the way, has had a great qualifying this season, qualified in 4th. In the first round of the season, and then 3rd last time out at Monza. But of course, he did have that retirement from 3rd position in the race. A lot of curb being used there from Christian Mikel. Look at that first sector as well. Brilliant in the first sector, great in the second sector. It's going to be challenging for pole, but I think he used a little bit too much curb. I don't think he's got the drive unless he's got a really, really slimmed out car.
It's a shorter run now down to the line. One more little bit of banking here that he's got to navigate, and then we'll find out exactly what the time. This is going to be a pretty quick time, actually. A 1:23.5 for Christian Mikel is going to put him 74 thousandths of a second away off of Philip Dries, and that is going to be his final lap. He's not going to be able to get back in and set another time, I don't think.
No, not unless you can cool the tyres down on a run and then go for it again. I don't really think that works. The first sector from Turkka Hakkinen was not good. The second sector is actually pretty decent. Let's see what he does across the line. He's currently in 6th position at the moment, and a great final sector. It's not enough to move him up the order at all, but he's got a lot of pace in that car. Had he not messed up the first sector, hey, that could have been the pole time.
Yeah, he found a 1/4 of a tenth, really, on that one. But again, he needed to find half a tenth or so. Jordi Zvere's on his run down towards the line. Ooh, a couple of personal best sectors. This might be a good lap.
Certainly is. He's only 1/10 down in sector 1, and this is a driver who won the opening round of the season, and he goes up into 4th place. does Jordi Zwiers. He had that victory at Spa, had a terrible round at Monza, but it does look as though Jordi Zwiers is back. We do have confirmation as to which Herlock it is. It's Joseph Herlock, not Daniel Herlock. So it's the Azure Esports Academy. It's always very confusing when you've got two people with the same name. But either way, Herlock coming through the bus stop, looking good in that first sector, looking quite good in the second one as well. Hemmingson, our race winner from Monza, great in the middle sector, but terrible in the first. Only 13th from Martin Hemmingson.
Wow,
oh, look at Herlock.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Purple middle sector. This could be a really good lap. Could this be challenging for pole position, actually, for Joseph Herlock? Wow. And he does it.
Well, I mean, Jean Lacy Esports Academy were confident in their pace this round. And look at what they have. Herlock up onto the provisional pole at the moment. Jordi Zwiers moved his way up into 5th. And now they're asking the questions to everyone else. What have you got? I don't think Philip Dreiss is coming out again in this session. So from that point, from Christian Mikel, from Darius Andre, from Jordi Zwiers as well. I think Luca De Melio, who also improved recently. Timotej Antonovsky goes into 6th. All of these drivers crossing the line. I don't think there's enough time for them to actually do another lap. And I don't think they'll have the tyres to do it either.
And is that actually an identical time from Antonovsky there? Here's a replay. And this is Giannis. Oh, just going for a bit of a spin. He's lost the entire front wing. I believe that was at turn 6, just before coming onto the banking.
Bit of a shame there. Such an easy mistake to make. I mean, we've seen a couple get very close to making that level of mistake. Here we got Mancini, who's not using all of the track over to the right-hand side before turning in, going through the bus stop. First sector's okay. Second sector, we'll have the answer just now. Not great. 7/10 down overall at present as he races his way round to the start-finish line. Currently down in 21st position. There is ground for this to be an improvement for the Musto GD Esports driver and get himself on the side, sort of like the top 18, top 17. And let's see where Mancini can go. Across the line, it is into 18th position. Certainly not challenging for pole on a time like that. Sander Callis did also improve up into 6th, but Joseph Herlock with the lap of the afternoon so far, absolutely superb. Look at that air from Lana, though.
Paul August Lana really giving it absolutely everything through the chicane there, but I don't think it's worked out for him.
Bit of a shame, but I mean, sometimes you do have to attack a chicane like that. It's your final lap. You've got a lot to throw at it. You're already down a little bit in sector 1. Why not give it a go? Timotej Antonovsky, I think he'll be a little bit disappointed with that qualifying at the moment for the RHG team that went quite well last round out. He is behind only one of his, actually, is he the highest placed RHG car? Because Risto Cap is only 12th, and where's Hemmingson in all the lists? Goodness me, not a great day for RHG.
No. I think he's somewhere between 14th and 19th, but I think we're about to find out now, in fact.
Wow, what a qualifying session that was. I mean, the 15-minute sessions that we get here in Formula Challenge do typically deliver. The 45-minute race that will follow will probably deliver in the same vein. Can anyone beat Joseph Herlock after a time like that? Around here, I think you're your own worst enemy.
Well, we'll have to find out if his setup, maybe punishes the rears potentially. We'll have to see what it looks like on the long runs, because there's quite a long run coming up for him. 45 minutes again. For those that missed the beginning of the broadcast, we do suspect that this is going to be a no stop. So they're going to be going to the end.
Certainly is just a single stint. Well, let's take a look at our qualifying order. Joseph Herlock will start from pole position, a 10th clear of Philip Dreiss. Christian Mikel in 3rd position with Darius Andre, another 4th place in qualifying this season. He's been in the top 4 in all of the qualifying sessions. Jordi Zwiers jumping up into the top 5 for the 2nd time in this championship after that victory at Spa. Sander Callis in 6th position, Timotej Antonovsky in 7th, Luca De Melio, and then Daniel Stepkowski, Mattia Krupi. After a great round last time out with pole position at Monza, he'll have to roll this one from 10th. Turka Hakkinen, Risto Capet and Jimmy Nisler with Giordano Valeriano in 14th. Jelle Binsbergen with Martin Hemmingson directly behind your Monza winner, only 16th in qualifying, 3/4 of a second off a pole. Paul Auguste Lana directly behind with a couple of Musto GD Esports cars in Mancini and Eros Masciuli. George Zalagianis in 20th position, and then the final runners on the grid, those that didn't get great qualifying laps out there. Martin Derlin, second off a pole just alongside Matteo Caruso. Rory McDuff, he'll be very disappointed. He said he wasn't really having the pace, but that will be even a shock to the system for him. Yuka Lalu after losing his front wing earlier on in the session, and then issues for Giannis Lianis late on in the session, and Tomasz Vak for RSR. Thrilling qualifying session though, and Joseph Herlock starting from the pole.
Yep, he's got incredible pace, as you said. Philip Dreiss, though, really did have the early session pace, so he might have some really good consistency, potentially. He took that early provisional pole position and held on to it for so long in the session. So that certainly gives me hope for his potential race. Ooh, but I mean, who are you going to go for? I dare not pick Darius Andre after what happened to him at Monza. I'll say that much.
Ah, yeah, you're really getting me on that. We'll look at the championship standing so we can really pick up what's been going on in the season so far. Sam McAllis with a couple of podiums leads the championship with Risto Capit directly behind. Martin Hemmingson after that victory last time out in third. Then Christian Mikel. Mattia Krupi after starting from pole has got a bit of work to do today. Rory McDuff with the most work to do in the championship front after starting right the way down the order. Luca D'Amelio, then Jordi Zviers, who's bouncing back after a terrible Monza round. Stepkowski, Turka Hakkinen, Jimmy Nisela and Philip Dreiss rounding out the top 12 of that championship. It's going to be a lot of work. I am not going to shy away from your question. I just really need to think about who I'm going to back in a race like this. Philip Dreiss is a great choice, but I am actually going to go for the ultimate recovery drive. And I'm sorry if this goes wrong, but I'm going confident with Jean Lacey Esports Academy, but I'm not going with Herlock. I am going with Jordi Zviers.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I can't fault you for picking a race winner who, again, had a really difficult time last time out at Monza. I think it's a pretty solid choice. I'm going to go with Christian Mikel, though. He's just the highest positioned of the championship leaders as it stands right now, and I think he might be a real dark horse.
Great choice and great head on his shoulders as well with Christian Mikel. And again, a reminder that same as it was in Formula Pro, this is not a standing start. Typically, we've always had standing starts in Formula Challenge, but when you come to somewhere like Daytona, you've got to have a rolling one, haven't you?
You really do. I mean, and it's definitely going to work out better as well, too, heading down into turn one. It's the only way to do things here at Daytona, so it makes sense that we do it both in Formula Pro and Formula Challenge.
Well, the World Centre of Racing here at Daytona Beach awaits a 45-minute race. Monza was completely breathless in its action, and I think today will be very much in the same category. What are we going to do on strategy? Are we no stopping? Are we one stopping? We'll have to wait and see what the 45 minutes is going to deliver. Herlock will start from pole position, but it's a better launch from Philip Dreiss, who might well have the whole shot on that run down into turn one. We cross the line to begin once again in Formula Challenge as we race our way down into the first corner. Herlock with the inside line, but it is Dreiss all the way around the outside. Christian Mikel, that Sander Callas who's been pushed out wide a little bit though. Contact as well between Jelle Binsbergen and one of the R8G cars. That one might have been Hemmingson in the background. He's been sent off at the first corner. A very wide run there that's Darius Andre, who's dropped back to I think 5th or 6th position. Philip Dreiss though, despite having a great launch, wasn't able to take the race lead.
Thought I saw a car missing a front wing, but it looks like everybody is still going on quite well. What a start for Andonovski, by the way, already up into 4th position, challenging for the podiums after starting from the 4th row of the grid.
I mean, this is that's classic Andonovski. Anyone who will remember back to the Le Mans Virtual Series back at Monza, the opening round of the season back in 2021. He qualified. They started that Tesla R8G car from 8th position, and he was 2nd after turn one. I mean, he knows how to get a rolling start done. This is on board with Christian Mikel, had a little bit of side-by-side with Philip Dreiss. And as much as you saw that line in qualifying where they took a lot of that curb, we're going to see that through the race as well. These guys are brave as well. Martin Derlin, I think, has had a bit of an issue. Matteo Caruso also out of the race. Hemmingson weighed on the order. So for Jean Lacey Esports Academy, Derlin and Caruso both out, as here comes Philip Dreiss for the race lead. He's going to come across the stripe to lead the first lap of the race. He's got the outside line for turn one, and is Philip Dreiss going to lead through the first corner? Yellow flags out in sector 2 as more issues are at bay. Philip Dreiss sends it in there. Really wide run there from Jordi Zviers as well, who just jumps in ahead of Darius Andre, who now goes side by side. This is exactly what we're expecting the entire race to be like.
Jordi Zviers picking up a couple of positions, by the way. He was down in 7th position after losing that spot to Andonovski, where he started from 5th, but he's now back up into 5th position and going well, and not that far off of Andonovski. Oh, he's actually going for it in turn 5.
Big move straight down the inside of Timotei Andonovski. The two of them still remain side by side. Andonovski's not going to back out of it though, heading down into turn 6. Just a little bit behind this. This is on board with Christian Mikel in 3rd position at the moment. Philip Dreiss tried going for the race lead of Joseph Herlock. is he going to try again? Herlock and John Lacey Esports Academy, I do believe, are on a no-stop strategy this afternoon. Here comes Christian Mikel, though, right in that slipstream. And did you hear that? He lifted out ever so slightly. He's not trying to race. Exactly what's happening behind, though, as there is the move. Jordi Sveers has got his way up into 4th position. Andonovski just managed to hold off Darius Andre.
Yeah, Darius Andre pushing really, really hard. Remember, he had a difficult time last time out at Monza. He's going to go to the outside line as they get into the banking, but he's going to have to tuck back into the slipstream. He didn't quite have the overspeed that he needed. Let's see if he can do it this time. We've got multiple battles going on. Everybody's trying to defend the positions as they head down towards the start-finish line, in towards turn 1. Surely it is going to be Andonovski that leads coming out of this. Darius Andre really wants to slot in behind him, but he's got Sepkowski going up the inside, and he's got him.
Yeah, lovely move from Stepkowski. Nearly, I mean, he got pushed below the double yellow as well, which is not ideal around here at the best times. Not sure what the legality is for that. Still think it's exceeding track limits if you were to make a move from going under the double yellow. But I don't know. I mean, this is America after all, and track limits don't really matter in this neck of the woods. So each to their own. Don't suspect me. Whoa! Turka Hakkinen! Was that Hakkinen who's gone straight on? It was.
It was.
Turka Hakkinen right up in the barrier. Who went with him?
I don't know. I didn't see what happened with that one. We just saw the aftermath of that in the background. We saw the jet black Turka Hakkinen Formula Challenge car just flying off the circuit, through the grass, and into the barrier. And there he is. He's missing both front and rear wings.
And this is going to be a very long afternoon from him. I think he'll still try and stay out in the race to try and hoover up some points, but a big shame for Turka Hakkinen, the Finn. Oh, big bit of curb there again from Darius Andre. His teammate was taking a lot of that at the end of the qualifying session in the form of Paul Auguste Lana. As you notice, that straight onto the push-to-pass. I did notice that Joseph Herlock used quite a bit of the push-to-pass earlier on in the race. Darius Andre using a little bit more. They only have 45 seconds in this race. This is Jordi Sveers. Is that the same instant as last race?
Yeah, that is...
Although, to be fair, that it was a penalty that went to Alejandro Lopez Ajorna last race rather than Jordi Sveers.
Yes, that is true. And Dries has closed up to the back of Herlock after Herlock used that push-to-pass to build what was, I believe, a 7/10 gap at one point was the last time I checked it out. But Dries has closed that right down. And I think part of the reason is because Christian Mikel is just all over the back of him. If he doesn't start putting the pressure onto Herlock, he's going to lose that second-place position.
Also, just to confirm as well, I did say it was Jordi Sveers, but it certainly wasn't, because Jordi Sveers is still in 4th place. That car that made contact did lose its front wing and also had the pink end plates. It was Mattia Creepy. That one, there we go. Mattia Creepy's in the pit lane with the pink end plates. Jordi Sveers has red. Jordi's done a good job of making sure that each of them has their own one, but red and pink are also quite similar. Herlock's got black, Yellow Binsberger's got bright green, and let's see what's going to happen, because is Philip Dries going to get the race lead? No, not yet. Did have to back out of it.
He looked to go to the outside. Herlock defends the inside in the run down to the bus stop, and there is Mattia Krupi just coming out of the pits after that incident with Turka Hakkinen. It was a tough one. There was a lot of speed coming into that corner between both of them, and the angle was difficult for me to make any sort of call on that. But there's Christian Mikel. He's not going to attempt a bump draft, surely, I would expect. I feel like that would just risk him losing the front wing more than anything else. He's going to be tucked right underneath that rear wing into turn 1 of Philip Dries, as Dries possibly looks to go around the outside of Herlock, but no, as they were, all 4 of them just so close as they make their way through the opening corners.
I mean, it's just a bit of a shame, though, for Matty Group. We just wanted to kind of touch on it again, because we've seen those kind of incidents a few times, and I'll agree with you, it's not really a slam dunk one, just because you carry, I said before, in the qualifying, they carry so much speed through the dog leg into the braking zone, and the line isn't super clear, and that is what Jordi Sveers is taking advantage of. That's what Philip Dries is taking advantage of. He's down the inside, and Philip Dries, for NeedRacing.com, is trying to take over the race lead, whilst Jordi Sveers is trying to get around the outside of Christian Mikel, and does so. Super move. Turka Hakkinen finally gets himself back into the pit lane with all of that damage, but John Lacey Esports Academy, they've dropped out of the race lead, but they have gone up a position with Jordi Sveers.
Yeah, Jordi Sveers is really on a mission. That was just really superb late braking into turn 5 and showing the John Lacey Esports Academy team. Oh, that's Herlock off. Oh, no. After an incredible qualifying pole position, he's losing position after position after position after that off at the, that was at the bus stop chicane, and he's still losing out.
Yeah, and the thing is where he's stayed on the apron and he can't really get up to it, because as soon as you do, you really kind of bottom out and you pitch the car around. You've got to be very careful with doing so, because you can spin out very easily coming back up onto the race circuit. Jordi Sveers had to back out just a little bit as well, as his teammate had gone straight on, but he's still going to pick up the slipstream. There is Darius Andre having to worry about Stepkovsky, who's got straight down the inside and into the top 5. There was Jordi Sveers. 7/10 off. He's going to be able to drag himself back up with the slipstream. Do not panic, any Jean Alesi Esports Academy fans, because they are charging too much curb, just too much curb. We're going to see a lot of that this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's exactly what we were talking about in the pre-broadcast. Just talking about how that really, really high-speed section of the track, just one small mistake can hugely punish you, not just in terms of the amount of time lost, because of how long the full throttle section is after the bus stop section, but also because you can run into a mistake like that and it's going to cost you so many positions. And you really feel for Herlock, who's actually managed to save that pretty well, I think. Slipping only down to 7th position after a mistake that big and a field this tight is pretty impressive.
I mean, it could have been a lot worse. Darius Andre finding out the hard way as to what the answer to that question was. That was a lot better held. Yellow flags out in sector 1. Obviously a lot further back on the circuit, so not sure who that is. It's one of the back markers, or the ones lower down anyway, in this race. Jordi Sveers has been passed by Christian Mikel. I wouldn't worry too much about that, only to the fact that they've lost a further 0.6 of a second to your race leader, Philip Dries. 9 minutes down in this race. Whoa, Antonovsky, big move straight down the inside of Jordi Sveers, who was just backing out a little bit there of Christian Mikel, and Antonovsky, boom, makes it stick.
Very opportunistic move from Antonovsky there. You can see Jordi Sveers as well trying to fight back immediately. Really does not want to be losing touch with Christian Mikel and Philip Dries. I think Sveers thinks he's part of the race for the lead here. And there he goes. He's so strong into turn 5. Antonovsky has to leave him room, and he does indeed. Nice, clean, fair racing between the two of them. But Antonovsky, with the better run off of the corner, is going to maintain that position for now.
And again, we also think that most of these are going to be no stopping in this race. This is Christian Mikel and how he got past Jordi Sveers. That's why they lost time. It was because of a mistake from Jordi Sveers. Costly.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's an unfortunate spot. But thankfully for him, he had another car there with him to give him that slipstream, but he's back up into 3rd position. He's ahead of Antonovsky as they get into the bus stop chicane. No major dramas. It looked like Antonovsky took a little bit more curb there than Sveers did, and I thought it might be an issue for him, but Jordi Sveers actually deploying a bit of push to pass there. I'm not sure if that's defensive to defend from Antonovsky, or if he wants to get back into that slipstream of Christian Mikel, or maybe it's a combination of the two.
Yeah, see what Antonovsky will do. He gets right up to the rear end. I don't think he fancies a move, but he does like a good dive down here to make quite a little bit of contact on the rear end. And again, nearly clears Jordi Sveers off the road. But Antonovsky's wise to it, so he stays in 4th. The 2 drivers ahead, by the way, both of them have won the GT Challenge Championship before. Obviously, certainly not an open wheels and GTs, weirdly enough, if you guess the name. Jordi Sveers, the Season 2 champion for Jean Alesi Esports Academy. And then Christian Mikel, the most recent champion in Season 4. A lot of experience in GTs, less so in open wheelers, but both showing they've got, it doesn't matter what it is, they will race it and race it well. And they've got to worry about Antonovsky, who, I've always said about who's been old teammates of Cetrez, the Velix drivers and stuff, who was old teammates with Jordi Sveers and Christian Mikel. They've all been old teammates and stuff. Antonovsky also was a part of Cetrez, the Velix, but not whilst Jordi Sveers was there. So get that one through your head. It's all very confusing. And Jordi Sveers is going for 2nd position. He's onto the outside. He's using the push to pass again. He is going aggressive right now because he's trying to catch the race leader of Philip Dries, who now has 1.4 seconds as they head through the bus stop.
Yeah, Philip Dries is really just extending his lead as Sveers, Mikel, and Antonovsky deliberate over 2nd position, and they keep battling each other and slowing each other up. I noticed that Christian Mikel couldn't quite find the apex through turn 3, ditto again through turn 5. A little bit further back, Jimmy Nisula is looking for a move on Herlock, who's deploying that push to pass to try and defend. A little bit further up the grid, though, and Mikel is back up into 2nd position, or trying to. He's around the outside at turn 1. He's got just a little bit ahead, though, so they're still side by side as they come out of the corner. The run down towards turn 3. Surely with the inside line, though, Mikel is going to be able to hold on to that position, and I think he has done. He does indeed, but again, this is all playing directly into the hands of Philip Dries.
Yeah, no, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm loving it. I am absolutely loving what we're seeing right now, but it's not wise for the championship because on that front, Dries is being given a golden ticket to go and win this race. And the championship leader, Sander Callas, is working up positions every single time. And also, the more they battle, is being dragged closer and closer to this battle. So, I mean, play with that one as you will. They are losing a lot of time. We'll take a look at the race start and how crazy it was down into turn one. Philip Dries really tried battling for the race lead. Went all the way around the outside as an attempt on Joseph Herlock, but Herlock was able to hang on. There was contact in the background as we'll go back to Martin Hemmingsen. It's Jelle Binsbergen who's on the inside. We did catch this one. Binsbergen out a little bit wide. Two of them made contact and Martin Hemmingsen was sent off. He just about dodged the barrier and rejoined right ahead of Matteo Caruso, explaining Matteo Caruso's retirement from this race and Martin Hemmingsen's issues.
Yeah, that explains why Martin Hemmingsen was missing 20-odd seconds on the leader after just one lap, and really unfortunate as well for the driver who came into this race third in the championship standings after picking up that win last time at Monza. So Sander Callas, though, is somebody who's a little bit further up in the championship standings. In fact, he's leading the championship standings, and he's looking to add to that championship tally if he possibly can. This is a very close battle between himself and Stepkowski. Surely with the inside line through turn 3, he's going to solidify that position, and he does indeed. Can he get the exit he needs? He does. And Sander Callas up into 6th position. And just before that happened, I was going to just remind the viewers at home, and who was that going offline there? Who is that? Is that someone being lapped?
Yeah, I think it is. I wouldn't worry too much. It was Mancini from Asto GD Esports going a lap down, so don't worry.
Yeah, but yeah, I was just going to remind the viewers at home who in the top 4 is battling in terms of like the top 10 in the points. It is Christian Mikel. He comes into this in 4th position, and Jordi Zwiers in 8th position. Dries and Endadovsky are not featured in the top 10 points as it stands currently.
Yeah, Philip Dries is 12th in the standings, is the final one inside that, the top 12 of the graphic that we had a little bit earlier on in the broadcast. So Philip Dries is down there with a couple of decent results this season, but nothing really incredible. Nothing that we actually kind of expect from Philip Dries. He's not been in the top 10 at all this season, but Dries has done so well in things like the BMW Sim M2 CS Racing Cup. Here comes Jimmy Nisseler to pass Joseph Herlock. Despite Herlock starting from pole position, he is dropping backwards at the moment. Nisseler the Finns to the outside of turn 1, but Herlock should be able to hang on. He has the inside line. It's going to be a hard drive in from Jimmy Nisseler, who's trying to hang it around the outside, but at this point, not so easy. That will actually get harder as the race goes on, of course, as your grip disappears more and more from the car, right?
And I would imagine, yeah, especially the back end is really going to want to step out. I think it's already a bit of an oversteery section of the track, but as the rubber continues to decline, it's just going to get more and more difficult. Oh, here we go. This 3-way battle for 2nd position is just unrelenting. And incredibly, they haven't managed to lose a ton of time to Philip Dries. It's still less than 2 seconds between the battle for 2nd and the lead. But look at this. Endadovsky and Mikel are going to be side by side. And Mikel is going to be shuffled from 2nd down to 4th in the space of a couple of laps.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm loving this, but I'm sort of sat there being like, can you just work together a little bit? Go and catch Philip Dries and let's see a 4-way fight for the race lead, because if it's a fight for the race lead like this, I am all over it. Loving this 3-way scrap. Not a great line from Jordi Zwiers. Oh, Timotej Andonovski, not a great line from him. Boom, rear wing gone. That's another R8G being sent back to the pit lane. He loses it over his front wing as well, and Andonovski has been sent around. It wasn't a great line from Jordi Zwiers, and Christian Mikel is also going to try and come through. Philip Dries is loving what he's seeing in his mirrors.
And it's only helping things even further as the gap extends to over 2 seconds for the first time in this race, as far as I've seen. Risto Caput, though, is going to try to go around the outside of Luca D'Amelio as they get into turn 1. He is later on the brakes. He's got that nose ever so slightly ahead, but turn 1 just goes on and on. It's almost a 180-degree corner, and unfortunately, he just wasn't able to hang it around the outside, and he's got Rory McDuff all over the back of him as well now, too. So if he can't make that move next time, he might end up shifting down to 12th, potentially.
Yeah, and of course, Risto Caput is 2nd in the championship at the moment with 2 podiums in the season. He's finished in 3rd in both of the races of the 2022 Formula Challenge season, so he needs to get on with it, because Sander Callas, his main championship rival, is in 5th. And I know it's kind of early days to be speaking of championship rivals, because we're not halfway through the season. We are after this race, but still, it's not a long season. It's only 6 races. If you have a bad round where you finish outside of the top 10, for me, from my point of view, that's almost a championship done in a season as short as this.
Exactly that. And if Mikel Sviers and Andre continue, then Sandor Kalas is going to be right onto the back of them. In fact, he's pretty much already right onto the back of him. And this is exactly what happened to Timotej Antonovsky. I did notice, and I'm not sure if anyone else at home noticed this, but I did notice that someone in that group took the line wrong. But I wasn't going to call out who until the back end stepped out on the RAG car, and Timotej Antonovsky pretty much pronounced himself as the person who took that chicane wrong. Oh, and that is a big incident, and a car upside down and flipping on the banking. Wow.
Well, Jukka-Pekka Lally didn't have a great qualifying after losing a rear wing in that, and he has Lianis to greet coming on to NASCAR 1, so not ideal. I think that's the only way that can be described as definitely suboptimal, and if that's how your afternoon's going to go, you can kind of get those vibes, from how qualifying started and stuff. You get those vibes. Jordi Sviers has lost out an awful lot of time here, and he is now in 8th under pressure from Jelle Binsbergen.
Yeah, he's got his teammate all over the back of him, and that's going to be a tough pill to swallow after a really successful initial outing for today, as we're coming up to the halfway point. And this is is this what happened to him? Yeah, he just touched the back of Christian Mikel at turn 1. The back end stepped out. Again, those rear tires are getting older and older as this race goes on, and Jordi Sviers suddenly found himself with no grip at the rear end.
I mean, that's just a bit of a shame there. It's so easy to do. Obviously, as you're going through turn 1, you're trying to maximise your speed, which means that you're going to be as close to the car ahead as is humanly possible. And unfortunately, that was a little bit too close from your Season 2 GT Challenge champion and race winner from Spa this year of Formula Challenge. And he'll have to do a little bit of work now as he is the second on the road for the Jean Lacey Esports Academy camp. Joseph Herlock becomes the lead in that group. Paulo Gislana for Volante Racing. Of course, he has his teammate a bit further up the order. Darius Andre in 3rd spot at the moment in the race. Before about how his qualifying's been going well. He'll want to get out of 3rd pretty quickly, because that was the spot that, of course, he crashed in Monza. So I think, actually, I don't want P3 next to my name for very long, so I'm going to try and catch Christian Mikel and get past as soon as possible.
6 drivers have already retired from this race, and we're not even halfway through this 45-minute race. Having a look at Nisula, who's actually been kind of on the climb, getting very close to the back of Herlock through turn 6 there as they come onto the banking. He'll be getting the benefit of that slipstream now, and potentially thinking about a move into the bus stop chicane. Is he going to deploy any sort of push to pass or anything like that? No, Herlock doesn't feel the need to deploy some push to pass either to defend. They continue into the chicane in the positions that they're in. Not far off of Stepkowski either. Oh, but Nisula gains a massive amount through that chicane.
And Binsbergen and Capper were switching, going down into the bus stop chicane as well. Rory McDuff's not too far behind, a little bit further down the order. It's a 2.8-second lead from Philip Dreiss right now as we head into the final 25 minutes of this race. 20 minutes been completed. And the question marks will now be raised as to whether we are going to see some pit stops this afternoon. That was Sandor Kalas getting past Darius Andre, so Andre doesn't stay in 3rd position, but he goes backwards one rather than forwards. But there is, again, to remind you of the rulings of Formula Challenge, there is no mandatory pit stop. They do not have to switch tyres. They can go to the end of the race if they have the fuel and the tyres to do so. And we believe that is the strategy that most of the teams and drivers will be taking this afternoon, because the pit lane around here, the delta in the pit lane, you lose something closer to the likes of 35 seconds just from the pit lane travel alone, not even including the roughly 10-second stop to take on fuel and tyres. So you really don't want to be losing what is not far off, basically 40-45 seconds from the pit lane. You've got to, a lot of drivers will want to stay out.
And if there was anybody that was coming into the pits, I think we would have spotted the pace difference on them. I think we probably would have spotted that lightweight car moving through the field, gaining lots of positions. Sandor Kalas has somehow managed to get up into a podium position, but yeah, I don't think that's a fuel deficit or anything like that as a result of that. This is on board with Risto Cabot as he makes his way through turn 1. He dipped the wheel. Oh no, he dipped the wheel at the apex, but that wasn't what caused this problem. It was the slight bit of oversteer at the exit that pitched him off into the barrier, off to the left side of the track.
And here is Jimmy Nisula trying once again on Herlock, but can't quite make it work. And once again, Zviers right in the background there. If he can't do it, then he'll probably give it a go. As they get very, very close to one another through turn 3 there.
Yeah, when you see a driver of the quality of Risto Capit dropping it into the barrier out turn 1, you know that this is difficult. He is a very, very talented and very quick driver who's well experienced and well versed with sim racing. Yeah, especially in this neck of the woods in sim racing. To see him drop it, just because this car has 200 brake horsepower less than its Formula Pro, does not mean it is any easier to drive. Because, to be honest, that 600 brake horsepower means that you can use more of the throttle, but it bites just as hard. It is no easier to drive than the Formula Pro counterpart. And that's kind of one of those interesting things, that just because it's the same car with less power, I mean, she's still tricky.
It is definitely a great way of weeding out the best drivers to have a shot at Formula Pro, who might be really, really good at the pinnacle of rFactor 2 single-seater esports. But at the moment, we're still very focused on this battle for 5th position, and actually it's closed up pretty significantly here, I think, as Joseph Herlock is going to go now. He's going to go on the offensive after going on the defensive for a number of laps. He's going to try to go around the outside, impossibly late on the brakes.
Yeah, way too deep, and obviously Jimmy Nisula is going to come straight through and bite off that. They're going to be side by side down into the International Horseshoe. Very early break there from Joseph Herlock, and now goes side by side with Jordi Zviers going through the International Horseshoe, and Jordi Zviers should be able to make his way up that position, and does indeed get himself into 7th. And of course, you can see a lot of people chatting about it and stuff as to what Formula Challenge really is. This is the pathway to Formula Pro. The only way to get into Formula Pro is by coming through this championship. No invites, no nothing like that. If you want to get into Formula Pro, you have to win your way through. You have to earn your place on the grid. No one is gifted it, and that's kind of one of those. I mean, I love it. It's a team thing. What we're going to see at the end of the season, we're going to see a bit of a relegation playoff between the bottom 2, as Sander Callas makes a move back up into 2nd position, past Christian Mikel. Not really fought too hard from Christian Mikel, a little bit too much curb from Sander Callas. But the bottom 2 in Formula Pro and the top 3 in Formula Challenge will go toe-to-toe to take over those final spots in Formula Pro for 2023. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, because we've still got 20 minutes of this race at hand.
This is hugely impressive from Sander Callas. It really does seem, as the laps tick down, his tires somehow just become more and more healthy relative to all of his competitors. As we see Stepkowski in the background there, possibly losing a position to Nisula. No, he just about hangs on. I saw him deploying just a little bit of push to pass to defend that position. He really wants to try and hold on to that 5th place, as Jordi Zviers has actually moved up into 6th ahead of Nisula, who now drops down ahead of Herlock.
Yeah, I mean, that battle, they're switching so much. It's almost at the point where it's like, when they're battling like that, I'm always kind of like, yeah, I mean, when we get to it and we see what they look like, then fair enough. Because at this point, it really doesn't matter, because we're going to see them change and change and change all the way through the final 20 minutes of this race. Kick of oversteer off the corner from Jordi Zviers, straight back to the inside, though. Lovely move on Stepkowski, if he can send it there. He was looking. I mean, that would have been a very brave send indeed, but Jordi Zviers, a bit wiser, was just kind of trying to distract Stepkowski there, and will try and slip through his way into the bus stop chicane, where you can make the move stick. We've seen it plenty of times today. It's exactly what Jordi Zviers is going to do. He's got to the inside of Stepkowski, going to back out. You can't really go side by side to the bus stop. And that's exactly what he does. So Jordi Zviers back up in the 5th.
And with that hindered entrance, because of course he was side by side with another car, you can see Stepkowski just losing out ever so slightly and not carrying quite as much speed onto this final flat-out section. And you can see everyone in that battle for 5th using push to pass simultaneously. Everybody is battling it out. We still have almost 19 minutes of racing still to go, and these guys are treating it like it's the last lap.
And they just continue to fight. Jimmy Nisula down the inside of Stepkowski. Big moment from Stepkowski. Herlock's also going to try and come through. He makes up that spot, up now into 7th position. Obviously, Stepkowski dropping back to the rear of the train. He's not really going to be too worried about it, knowing that you can absolutely pass around here. I'd be very tempted to save my push to pass, but Jimmy Nisula uses just a little bit of around 1.5 seconds, really. I was going to say it's close to 2 seconds. Rory McDuff is off the rear of this train. He's dragging Jelle Binsbergen and Luca de Melio up with him. Also, Giordano Valeriano is also in that kind of train for 9th position as they all start to close up. Risto Capit's dropping back further and further. He's into the clutches of Paulo Giuslano and Eros Masciuli now. Issue being, of course, he has a lot of damage on his car, and this car is very sensitive to damage, as you would expect from an open wheeler.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't expect this thing to be built like a tank. It's not designed to withstand incredible impacts. Oh, speaking of incredible impacts, Jimmy Nisola is going to catch air ever so slightly at the entrance of that chicane, and that's definitely going to lose him time to Herlock, and Herlock is going to move to the outside line. He's going to have to go the long way around, which is going to be a little bit beneficial to Nisola, actually, as they're side-by-side coming onto the start-finish straight. Still side-by-side between the two of them. He's going to have to be a little bit later on the brakes, is Herlock, if he wants to complete this move. It's incredible to think that the move started, maybe half a mile, 3/4 of a mile back, only just now being completed, but Nisola does manage to hold on to that position despite that slight mistake.
And critically used a bit of push to pass. They have 45 seconds each of push to pass to be used in this race. It's essentially 1 second for every minute of the race, being a 45-minute race, and it being a 32-lap race is what we're assuming it's going to be. What the stats and stuff from some of the drivers, what they've been pumping out, that we're expecting to be a 32-lap race, it means really you've got like one and a half seconds to use per lap. You want to save that for the late portion of the race. You don't want to be burning that push to pass now, unless you're really in a position like Philip Dries and you want to use it to build your lead even further so it is insurmountable in the final moments of this race.
Exactly right. Actually, we are on the same page. I think if we were both a race engineer for one of these drivers, we would both be thinking the exact same thing. If my driver was in that battle for 5th position, I would be telling them to be as sparing with the push to pass as possible. Try to just use that slipstream effect to keep up to the back of the cars ahead. Let them burn out their tires. Let them use all of their push to pass. Wait for a little bit later in the race. Christian Mikel, though, he's not hanging around. He wants to get back past Sandra Collis, the current championship leader in Formula Challenge, and he does so pretty handedly, actually, moving ahead even before the braking zone into Turn 1.
He's only 16 points ahead, is Sandra Collis, from Christian Mikel. They're both going to be pulling out quite a large gap on Risto Capit, who's now down in 14th spot. Said that Paulo Giuslano was there. Paulo Giuslano has gone. Eros Masciuli is the next one. So this is going to be a painful day for Risto Capit. He might well struggle to stay in the top 15. In fact, I don't think he's going to stay in the top 15, which for the Estonian, who's been on the podium both times in Formula Challenge in 2022, that is going to be a very, very bitter pill to swallow. But he's determined to get to the checkered flag because it's just hoovering up some points. That's the critical bit. You just want to get as many as you can, and you can't really afford to just basically pull over and let a load of points go.
You really can't. Not with a 6-race calendar. If there were a couple dozen races ahead of them in 2022, sure, you can afford to have even a couple of bad rounds, a few bad rounds, but with only 6 races, it really is all about consistency. And I think our current championship leader, Sandra Collis, has been just the perfect example of just how important that consistency has been. The way that he's driven up into a podium position here today has really been inspiring, really, truly impressive stuff. But Dries has been untouchable again coming into this event in 12th in the points, 128 points for Philip Dries coming into this event. But now almost 5 seconds, over 4.5 seconds is the gap to Christian Mikel.
Yeah, I've said before the things that Philip Dries has done well, and he did all right in GT Challenge. He did really very well, did Philip Dries and Johannes Dries. Not actually brothers, it's a lot more complicated than that, and I'm not going to talk about that today because it gets very confusing. But the two Dries are both very good in the, as I said before, the BMW M2 CS Racing Cup, which we had as a support series to GT Pro last year. Very, very strong in that. I cannot begin to even describe the differences between the BMW M2 CS racing car and this. They are two so very, very different cars. The fact that Philip Dries is this strong this afternoon, I mean, this is a stunning drive. Whether it puts him into championship contention or not, these are the drives you kind of remember when you are so, so strong. Does maybe ask the question if maybe he's running the car a little bit light, but if he was, I think he would have been pulling away a lot faster than he is now. So I think we're all kind of sat there. I think everyone is on the no-stop strategy.
We're so late into the race as well, too. Certainly,
Yeah.
if I were going to be doing a one-stop, I would be thinking about coming in a little bit earlier than 13 minutes remaining in the race. Sandra Callas looking to the outside once again into turn one on Christian Mikel. It's not going to be as easy for him as it was for Mikel on the previous lap, and he gets hung out to dry at the outside line at turn one and loses a lot of time as a result of that, actually. Actually, Mikel is able to comfortably take turn three without too much pressure behind. Darius Andre, by the way, still in the background, still kind of lurking as well. He seems to sort of be there in case something happens, though. I don't know if he's going to be pushing up to this battle for second and possibly challenging with overtakes or anything like that towards the end of the race. But we will find out. 12.5 minutes remaining.
Well, either way, fourth place would be Darius Andre's best result of the season. He gets onto the button once again to try and close in a little bit on that podium battle. Finished in 6th at Spa and then obviously retired from the race at Monza whilst running in the podium positions. Jordi Veers also pushing the button just a little bit to try and close up to Darius Andre, but I think he's a little bit too far back to even challenge. It's more so to keep his teammate Joseph Herlock, Jimmy Nisler, and pretty much the rest of the contingent at bay. McDuff not really closed in on this. He's still hovering around 1.5 seconds off. Stepkowski obviously between Nisler and McDuff. Binsbergen, D'Amelio, Valeriano, all that lot in the train that's also kind of closing in on this. As we ride on board with Jimmy Nisler, you can see the gap that Jordi Veers has on his teammate Joseph Herlock, who's got the straight line speed to keep the satellite racing car at bay.
Yeah, 1 and a bit seconds as it stands right now for Jordi Veers, actually. So he's looking pretty comfortable in that 5th place position. And indeed, it's looking like this may be a three-way battle for 6th as it stands right now. Stepkowski still just about within touching distance. Rory McDuff really hasn't been making any sort of inroads, though. He was, somewhere between 1 and 2 seconds or so off that battle for P5 5-10 minutes ago or something, and he hasn't made a lot of inroads. But with Nisla getting up to the back of Herlock now, that potentially could introduce a bit of battling, and that could be exactly what the likes of Rory McDuff and Binsbergen might need to possibly get involved in that battle for 6th.
Philip Dryce was doing basically what Kevin Siggy did. Obviously, he had his teammate for company in Jeffrey Rietveldt in Formula Pro around here, whilst, yes, there were mixed conditions in that race. But my point being is that just dominating. Team Redline dominated in Formula Pro in the same way that Philip Dryce is dominating here in Formula Challenge right now. 5.3 seconds clear from Christian Mikel, from Sandor Callas, from Darius Andre, Jordi Veers, Joseph Herlock, and this battle for 6th. Jimmy Nisler and Stepkowski also in company. Said before it was a three-way fight for 6th. Certainly is the case. Then Rory McDuff, Jelle Binsbergen, Valeriano, Luca D'Amelio, Paul Auguste Lana, Masuli, Zalagianis. Who's missing from that top 15? Risto Capit. He's down to 16th spot. Sandor Callas trying to get around the outside of Christian Mikel, and he is not able to do so. Darius Andre is right there in the fight for the podium. And I think that Christian Mikel is feeling the pressure on his shoulders, not only of the race itself. Sandor Callas and Darius Andre are right there, but also team boss Dennis Lind, I did notice, is watching on and keeping his eyes to what's happening with his Cetres Need Develops team.
He's going to have to try something else as Sandor Callas, because this around the outside at turn 1 is not working on Christian Mikel. It's something that can work. It's a valid overtake. I'm not saying it could never work or anything like that, but it's really just allowed Darius Andre to just fly up to the back of Sandor Callas, and now he's in real danger of actually slipping out of that podium position. Was that Andre just moving? He's just moving up to the high side ever so slightly there. He maybe isn't actually interested in making the overtake. I'm seeing just a bit of weaving going on between the two of them, so maybe just looking to stay behind for the meantime. But this is looking like it's going to be a three-way fight between Mikel, Callas, and Andre for 2nd position. But yeah, it's over 6 seconds now to Philip Dryce, less than 10 minutes remaining. Surely nobody is going to be able to catch up to the back of him unless something absolutely catastrophic happens. So here we go into turn 1.
Oh, Darius Andre, he's gone below the double yellow. It's going to be 3 wide over the stripe this time. Where does Darius Andre go? He's come back up onto the racetrack as side by side. Sandor Callas is sending it around the outside. Super stuff. And Darius Andre goes below the double yellow to grab himself 2nd in this race. I mean, how bold was that from Darius Andre? That's why he was taking the high line, by the way, is because he was building himself up. He was winding himself into the move. I think that was a little bit spicy, if I'm honest.
That was some 200 IQ stuff, but a bit of bravery involved in that one as well. But a couple of overtakes in a single corner for Darius Andrade. He's up into second position and possibly making up for the mistakes of Monza as we get a replay here. And this is how it all went down. So it was Sandra Callas who went to the outside once again, but Andre goes to the inside. I wasn't looking at the push-to-pass usage, so I'm not sure who was using push-to-pass here, but they go 3 wide into turn 1, and incredibly, they all come out the other side.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, like I said, I don't know what race control will have to say about Darius Andrade's move there. His teammate has just retired from the race, but for Volante Racing, that is absolutely superb. The team manager, Carter McColeman, will be very, very happy with what he is seeing from Darius Andrade this afternoon. And not only has he been able to get past, he has been able to run away as well. He's about seconds clear of Sander Callas, and Christian Mikel eyes up whether he wants to make a move or is he going to try and let Sander Callas close in. Obviously, tyres are really coming into this race right now, as Jimmy Nisler's got Stepkowski going straight around the outside. Joseph Herlock as well. Stepkowski's a little bit too wide. Jimmy Nisler loses the rear end and comes straight back through.
Stepkowski trying to do the Darius Andrade, to do the double overtake into turn 1, but unfortunately it didn't work out for him. He couldn't go from 8th to 6th, but he's still in this race. We're on board with Jimmy Nisler as it stands right now. He's trying to catch up to the back of Herlock up ahead, who again started from pole position in this race and has since slipped down after some issues in the race, now down into 6th position. And unfortunately, a losing touch, it seems, to Jordi Sveers, still continuing to put a little bit of time between himself and the rest of the cars that were battling for that 5th place position, as he's just kind of keeping them at arm's length.
I'm trying to think as to whether you're allowed to go but be beyond the double yellow typically in racing on the road course race around here. I mean, obviously this is going into real world, what the norm is in real life. Obviously, whilst racing around the super speedway, you can't go below that double yellow. But in the road course racing, it's a bit more slippery, and you kind of can. But that's obviously taking it from real world, and we're not racing in the real world. So, race control can make that up, or not make that up, make the ruling as they see fit. I was just getting really big trouble.
No one's going to clip
race control. Oh, goodness me. I'm in so much trouble from race control after this. Whoops. But no, you know what I mean? They can kind of do it as they see fit. And so for that, I mean, I don't know. For me, I'm kind of sat there being like, as the commentator, as the one who's sort of entertained by that, I'm like, yeah, go for it, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the exact same way. I do wonder if Callas and Mikel would have liked some clarification on that legality before the race started. But yeah, I have to assume that that everything was okay in terms of that move. Certainly, Darius Andrade hasn't been asked to move aside or anything like that. Here, we're going to find out what happened. Oh, and Paul Augustlana got airborne, and I forget who that was in Formula Pro, but that I'm getting deja vu from that incident. Yes, these things that I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm not even going to say. I was going to wonder if it was Noah Royals. No, you were saying earlier it might have been Noah Royals, but I don't fully remember as to who it was, so I won't go back to it. I mean, it was a week ago, and we do know that commentators do not have any memory, so each their own on that one. Big moment though for Paul Augustlana, but at least his teammates doing quite well, so it's something for the team. By the way, also not to say that he's doing quite well, he's closed in a little bit on Philip Dryce, a little bit too late. But that shows the pace Darius Andrade's got right. Yeah, really impressive, especially in the later stages of the race. And we did talk about this. For anybody that's stuck around since the beginning of the broadcast, you will remember that we talked about how this is going to be a really difficult one with it being a nose stop, because the drivers are going to have to go so much further into the stint than they would otherwise normally do so. So they're putting a little bit more stress on the tires, and they're having to deal with thermal degradation and all of that kind of stuff in the later stages of this race. So we're really getting to see who is good at managing that sort of stuff. And it really does seem to be your Darius Andrades, your Philip Dryces, your Sander Callases, those that are up at the front, just seem to have done a better job of managing their tires in this super important zero-stop race.
And late on in this stint, by the way, as well, I said before that McDuff hadn't really done too much to catch up with Stepkowski. It was kind of hovering around 1.5 seconds for a very long period. He's dragged Jelle Binsbergen right up into that fight now. He's only a second off and is really picking up the slipstream from those cars ahead. So things could get better for those charging and could get a lot worse for those defending as the race goes into its final 3.5 minutes. I'd expect from this point we're going to have 3 more laps to go around Daytona, and what a race it's been. I mean, the race that we get in Formula Challenge is just absolutely top-notch. It's just crazy. I love it.
Yeah, really impressive stuff. I did actually want to touch on, because earlier you said there's no invite for Formula Pro, but everybody's invited to Formula Challenge, of course.
True.
If you can manage to make it in, but everybody's invited to give it a go. And you can throw your hat in and see if you can make it into the top 26 to be featured on these broadcasts. But it really has been a heck of a show. I dare say this has possibly been my favorite race of the season so far. I did really enjoy even the exhibition round that we got to commentate on at the very beginning of the season, but I have to say this one has been especially interesting.
I mean, I found this one fascinating. I still think just because of how different the strategy was on my one's Monza, but this race has been excellent anyway, so I'm all for it. And it's not done yet in that. And you're absolutely right, by the way, when it comes to people trying to qualify. Next round is Donington Park in 2 weeks' time, which you can go and get yourself onto the grid for by getting yourself some lap times going through the R-Factor 2 competition system. And then you can join grids with beautiful cars like this one, Jelle Binsbergen driving the Jean Lacey Esports Academy car, the best liveries of all of the Jean Lacey Esports Academy ones, because it's got the Dayglow yellow, the sort of Valentino Rossi yellow highlights, which I am all about.
And it does make it very noticeable. You're going to be able to spot Binsbergen from a quarter mile out or thereabouts. Oh, there we go. Sandra Kalash moving back ahead of Darius Andre, and rather early. Look at that. He had a car length on him even before the start-finish line.
Penultimate lap of the race they've just gone on to. They've just begun now. Interesting that Sam McCallum has been able to do it. He's been able to drag himself back up to Darius Andre. Christian McKell's not been able to come with him. Here's Jelle Binsbergen still on the rear end of the American. Rory McDuff, the Bostonite, sort of, not really. I mean, he's not in Boston, but you know, it's in that area. Either way. Yeah, it's close enough. He doesn't have the accent, though, so it's sort of like it's a bit 50-50. Sam McCallum defending from Darius Andre. Mikkel's now in a world of his own. Jordi Spears is in a world of his own. Herlock has to worry about Nisler. Stepkowski has to worry about the charge of McDuff, who's got to worry about Binsbergen as well. It's all crazy inside the top 10. The calmest driver on the entire grid right now is surely your race leader, Philip Dryce.
Absolutely. Yeah, it got to be. Even if he had a small mistake, I think he could probably recover just fine. But I think the final stages of this race really have become about, you know, how much push to pass do you have left? How much rubber do you have left, particularly on those rear tires especially? Darius Andre has a huge moment. Oh, that is going to be a scare. That'll get the heart pumping, no doubt.
Yeah, I think he's now gone from, speaking of Philip Dryce being the calmest on the grid, I think Darius Andre might be the most terrified after that. You could see, by the way, and this is what we kind of saw before, he took the higher line through NASCAR 1 and 2, and he was even lifting out of the throttle because he wanted to make a move down into T1. And it's why he committed so hard through the bus stop chicane to try and make something stick, but pushed too hard. He'll have one more effort at it, and it'll be a drag race to the line, I am absolutely sure, between Sam McCallum and Darius Andre. Final lap of the race, Philip Dryce miles away.
For what it's worth, by the way, Darius Andre had that small moment there, and immediately I saw the push-to-pass sign light up next to Christian Mikkel's name. So I don't know what the push-to-pass situation like is for Darius Andre, but Christian Mikkel I saw deploying some just a little bit ago.
Philip Dryce has only got a few corners to head his way round before we'll go straight back to the fighting behind. Boom, push to pass being used from Darius Andre and Christian Mikkel. The two of those separated by 6 tenths of a second as they're trying to close in on Sander Callis. The battle for second is going to be an enormous drag race to the line. And who are we going to see go below the double yellow this time by? Bus stop. One last time, ticked off successfully from the three of those. Philip Dryce comes around the final corner. It was 1 stops in the previous couple of races. It is no stops here at the World Centre of Racing. The Daytona International Raceway is Philip Dryce's. And look at this from Christian Mikkel. Side-by-side contact as they race up towards the line for third. Dryce wins. Sander Callis takes second. It's going to be super tight between these two. Oh, you can't pick them apart as they come across the line. I think it was Darius Andre by thousandths of a second over Christian Mikkel. Jordi Spears, Herlock, Nisela, and look at the drag races across the line. I think McDuff just got beat out by Binsberger, but that would have been separated by thousands as well. Classic Daytona action.
Wow, that was just about the coolest finish for third place. Oh, no, never mind. Oh, I've gone and commentator cursed him.
I mean, that is a shame for Darius Andre, but I think we could have all seen that one coming. I'm going to take a wild stab at a dark. Is that, that's for passing outside of track limits. With a 10-second post-race penalty for Darius Andre. That's what my guess would be. I'm not race control, though, so I'm not going to quote them fully on that one.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah, really unfortunate for Darius Andre. But yeah, that might have been something that he needed clarification on before the race started. It's unfortunate for him, but yeah, rules are rules, and they are not being made up as we go along, despite what anyone might say.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling for Darius Andre, especially because, again, I commentator cursed him last time out at Monza, and I just feel like this poor guy can't get a break despite having incredible pace.
I mean, we both didn't pick the winner, so at least there's that. Because I said Jordi Veers, you said Christian Mikel, and it was actually Philip Dries in brilliant fashion, just out front. Not all afternoon. He did have to work for it a little bit, but he did come across the line as the winner. Sander Callas in second place, and Darius Andre, who will lose out third. He'll drop his way back, I think only though to sixth place with a 10-second post-race time penalty. Christian Mikel will move his way up into third. Jordi Veers, I believe, will go up into fourth, and then Joseph Herlock into sixth. I don't really know about the rest from that, but either way, Yimi Nisler, Stepkowski, Roy McDuff, and Jelle Binsbergen, your top 10. Behind that, Luca D'Amelio, then Valeriano, Eros Masciuli, Zalagianis. A desperate day for Risto Capet, second in the championship, 15th in the race. He's going to be losing out an awful lot. Thomas Vack, Mattia Krupi with that incident earlier on with Turka Hakkinen. He'll be down in 17th position with Jukka-Pekka Lalu in 18th. A lap down was Mirko Mancini. Paul Auguste Lana retiring from the race quite late on with that incident going through the bus stop. And then a slew of retirements. Timotei Antonovsky also through the bus stop on the exit. Lianis obviously taken out into NASCAR 1. Turka Hakkinen down into the West Horseshoe. Martin Hemmingson even at the first corner. Martin Dillon and Matteo Caruso also involved in all of that. What a crazy race. That is, like I said, it is classic Daytona racing, and that is why we love coming racing here.
Yeah, that was thrilling to watch. So exciting to watch. It's unfortunate that really it did come down to the penalty rather than the nose-to-nose racing across the line because, yeah, I was silently fist-pumping in the air when they were crossing the line like that because that is about as cool a finish as you could ever ask for.
Kind of wonder though with battles, we had that one with third, but did you see how many drag races there were to the line? It wasn't just one, it was obviously 2, 3, 4. That's how it goes. Everyone's eyeing that up late on in the race. I think the big disappointment for Darius Andre and Christian Mikel is that they weren't able to catch up to Sander Callas, who'd been able to build himself quite a big gap. Also, I wonder if Darius Andre had any damage after going through the bus. We did tap the wall slightly on the exit on the penultimate lap of the race.
Yeah, he did indeed. Yeah, and I don't think he had any push to pass on that final lap either, because I did notice the likes of Christian Mikel and Sander Callas and the other cars around him all using the push to pass. But indeed, I didn't see any push to pass after the exit of the bus stop for Darius Andre. So I think he may have been in the worst position essentially out of everybody as they were coming to the checkered flag.
I think it's also one of those things that we can kind of speak of to what's going to happen next time where we'll go racing at Donington. We're going to cover all this off as well, and we're going to take a look at some highlights from the race in a few moments. But before we get to that, Donington Park, very, very different circuit. It's kind of one of those beautiful things. We've been to Spa, we've been to Monza, we've been to Daytona. Donington, all four of those incredibly different. Then we go to the Circuit d'Azur and then Laguna Seca, 6 very, very different circuits. The second half of the season, though, is a lot harder to overtake at than the first half of the season, though.
Yeah, no doubt about it. In terms of heavy braking zones, the width of the tracks as well, too, there's going to be some serious difficulties from the drivers. And, of course, that's going to put more of an importance on qualifying as well, too. So the drivers are going to be pushing really, really hard to get that one-lap pace down as much as possible, I would imagine. It's going to be especially important for the second half of the season. But there are overtaking locations at those circuits. But, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. You're going to have to possibly strike when somebody makes a mistake, apply lots of pressure for multiple laps to force a mistake. That kind of stuff is going to become more and more important, or potentially the strategy.
I think strategy is going to be critical. I don't think we're going to be talking about too many no-stop strategies in the second half of the season. Obviously, some people are going to try it. Track position is king after all. But still, I think we're going to be a bit more open on that front. And again, a reminder to you yourselves, you can go and qualify yourselves for Daytona, for Donington Park. We've just done Daytona, for Donington Park, the other D track, which will be in a couple of weeks' time. Hopefully, we'll be able to take a look at some highlights throughout this fantastic race at the Daytona International Speedway. It was a heavy race down to turn one. Joseph Hurlock from pole position, and a great pole it was. He'd be able to hang on after a big attack from Philip Dryce going through the first corner. Hurlock would lead. There was drama in the background though, as Martin Hemmingson would try and get his move on Jelle Binsbergen, but there would be contact, just a little touch, and Martin Hemmingson would be sent off to the barrier. He'd rejoin right ahead of Matteo Caruso, bang into the side, and such a shame for your Monza winner. Turkka Hakkinen would be removed from the race by Mattia Krupi. A little bit of contact between the two. Mattia Krupi losing his front wing, and Turkka Hakkinen definitely losing the race, all for about 5th position going into the early stages of the race. You can see Philip Dryce going for the race lead, onto the brakes, down into the West Horseshoe, taking over the race lead with a super move. And this was, for him, the moment of the race. No looking back from this. Lianis, big moment, right ahead of Jukka-Pekka Lalu, as well as one of the Musto GT Esports cars that was off on the left-hand side. The two of those would retire from the race. Then this moment from Timotej Andonovski, speaking of retirements from the race, too much power, nearly straight into the side of Christian Mikel, up into the barrier, and bang, front wing, rear wing, retirement from the race. Such a shame for the Macedonian. Jordi Zviers, after dropping back a little bit in the race, he made contact with Christian Mikel. It would move him down to the back end of the top 10, as the racing would just be absolutely enthralling. All drivers trying to look after their tyres, making a no-stop strategy work. And then this move from Darius Andre, I mean, even if it gets a 10-second time penalty, I am all over it. So bold, so decisive, to the inside below the double yellow, clearing Christian Mikel and Sander Callis and getting himself up into second, as his teammate was retiring himself from the race, taking too much to the curb and bang into the barrier. Paul Auguste Lana straight out of this race whilst his teammate was making his way forward. Philip Dryce, though, completely dominant this afternoon. He'd crossed the line as the winner. Christian Mikel would try and get his way past Darius Andre. Sander Callis would take second position, and the two would have a drag race to the line before we even knew of the 10-second time penalty. Absolutely incredible between these two. At the line, it would come down to thousands, and it would go to Darius Andre. He'd be given a 10-second time penalty post-race, and you can see it here. Boom. It does not get much closer than that, and that is why we love Formula Challenge.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That was a really, really good race. I really enjoyed that. I know people probably would have been worried when they were hearing that it was going to be a zero stop, that they thought it might be a little uninteresting with strategy, not spicing things up and that sort of stuff. Dry race as well, too. But again, I really, really like that one. That was the most fun I've had with these so far. It was just really interesting to see the battling, and the cars were so nervous at those high speeds at Daytona.
Well, we're going to depart Daytona, and we're going to take a little trip back over to the United Kingdom as we head to Donington Park for round 4 of the season. The circuit in Leicestershire does provide some great racing indeed. It's going to be a tricky one. It's going to be one that's all about qualifying, all about bravery, all about strategy. It's going to be such a difficult race in 2 weeks' time. And you can join us on the grid by going on to R Factor 2 and qualifying your way in to that round. I mean, I love Donington Park. I absolutely adore the circuit. These cars might be a little bit too big for it, but I still think with the power that we've got in Formula Challenge, we are in for a great race.
Yeah, I think definitely the ground effect will help significantly, because you're right, the wheelbase is quite large on these cars, but you know, with a couple of hairpins and that ground effect reducing the dirty air and cars being able to hopefully follow, and again with strategy, again definitely not a no stop on that one. I think Donington's going to be a blast.
I think it will indeed. You'll have to join us there in 2 weeks' time. Of course, there is no Formula Pro next week. Formula Pro is actually moving. It's on a bit of a mid-season break. It's going to move to the week after. So we're going to see Donington Park for Formula Challenge and then Donington Park for Formula Pro. But in the weeks between, on the Sunday, coming up this Sunday, you'll be able to watch Race of the Season here on Traction.gg. And also, you can go and get yourselves qualified for that as well if you can't even be bothered to take part in Formula Challenge. From myself, Liz McLean, and from Justin Sutton as well, we'll wish you a very warm goodbye.